The Batman. The Batman has been one of my most anticipated film of this year, and I've been excited for this project since the announcement of Robert Pattinson as the Caped Crusader, and also just the idea of presenting Batman in a detective noir thriller was enough to get me pumped. Yet it is a really tricky film to talk about, as I've watched it twice on the big screen and I had two different reactions after both the viewings. So, where do my thoughts lie? What do I feel about the film? Let's talk about it, shall we? So, on the first viewing, I had a pretty meh reaction to it. I liked it, but I was expecting more. I was expecting better. And I feel like the mammoth of expectations I had from the film kind of ruined the film for me, and it came out as an emo version of David Fincher's Zodiac and Seven. But once I got back from the theater, the film started growing on me, and as I was recalling certain scenes, they were just getting better, and the layers were more visible. Hence, I made a decision to watch it again, and after a second viewing, I can say I really liked this film. Although the issues I had with it during the first viewing were still there, and I'll be addressing all of it, but first I'll talk about the positives. The thing that I liked the most is that the film is tonally perfect. This is easily the most tonally consistent superhero film out there, and a big credit for that goes to the cinematographer Craig Fraser. What he did here with the lighting was very much reminiscent of Gordon Willis's work in The Godfather and Roger Deakins' work in Prisoners. Also, I feel like him and the art director together crafted a Gotham City that felt like it had a soul and felt like a character in and of itself. This, in my opinion, is the best live-action depiction of Gotham, which is saying quite a lot because Burton's gothic depiction of the city in Batman 1989 and Nolan's depiction of Gotham, which felt like an alien city from our world, set the bar really high. I'll say this version of Gotham is on par with Bruce Timm's version from the animated series, which I feel like is the most accurate portrayal of the city. Another thing that I loved was the portrayal of Batman. Now, I said Batman, not Bruce Wayne, because I do have issues with how Matt Reeves portrayed Bruce Wayne, but I'll get into it shortly. This version of Batman is exactly how I pictured Batman to be in his early years. Here, Batman is in his year 2 as the Caped Crusader and is struggling with the kind of symbol he wants to be for the city. Thinking that vengeance is what the city needs, he becomes the physical embodiment of vengeance and beat the criminals black and blue, but yet not able to make a difference.
I'm vengeance.
The journey of the Batman to evolve from that is easily the most interesting aspect here. Spoiler alert, you can continue from the time displayed on the screen. Alright. My favorite scene from the film comes when he, during the third act, beats a Riddler cultist black and blue only to later see him say, "I am vengeance." That is his adapted persona, which then leads him to a moment of self-realization and evolves him into a symbol of hope, which then is followed by one of the most beautiful imagery in a superhero film where we see him lead a bunch of victims to safety. That is what I want from Batman, and they nailed it. Every aspect about it. Also, the scene of him rising up from the water was kind of like, a symbolism of baptization over there, that he is baptized now and he has become a symbol of hope, which was really cool, and I loved it. I also loved how Batman at the beginning is portrayed as a creature of the shadows, like he always should be in movies, and scenes like, for example, where we can hear his footsteps before he enters established it really well too. Robert Pattinson is easily one of the best actors of this generation, and it can be seen here as he walks a fine line to bring out the rage and inexperience that defines this Batman, and he does it in a very realistic manner. He portrays Batman which feels brutal yet vulnerable, and he nails that aspect of it. Without any question, pun intended, I love the portrayal of Riddler here. I love the fact that he was working in the background and was barely in the foreground. A character like Riddler, who cannot match the physicality of Batman, needs to be portrayed in that way where he can actually challenge Batman in the right way. And Paul Dano was the perfect man for the job. His unhinged portrayal added a lot of weight to the character. It's great that he took the role in a big commercial film because he's low-key one of the best actors working today and a lot of people don't know about him. Speaking of other characters, I loved how they fleshed out Gordon and Falcone, which were further enhanced by power-packed performance from Jeffrey Wright and John Turturro respectively. Now, even though here the action is not in the foreground, it's very much a detective noir thriller first, but the action here is exceptionally good. And for me, I think in a superhero film, if you need to get one thing right, the most important thing is that you need to at least get the action right because, masses usually go for that. That is the biggest cash grab of these films. The reason why I'm not able to buy the action sequence in a lot of superhero films because the green screen is evidently visible. You can see the background is fake instantaneously, and that pulls me out of these films at the beginning. That's why I do not watch the superhero films in IMAX because I don't feel like it's worth it. Tell me, why will I watch something on IMAX if I know that it will look this fake? Yeah, this fake. And these films are made with a budget of $200 to $300 million, and they look like a film made with a budget of $50 million, which shows that these days studios are focusing much on the quantity and on the quality because visual effects, they take time to render. If you want to make a realistic looking film, you need to give the artist a lot of time to do that. But as we know that these films pop out 4 times a year, the visual effect artists do not get that much time. Hence, the result is a very unfinished product, which you can see right over here on your screen.
I agree that the scene isn't very well done, but do you know why that ended up being the case? Yeah, this whole scene they shot in October, and by the time the visual effects company got it, it was like December. They only had about 6 weeks to do this entire scene.
They probably got a good paycheck out of it.
Can't guarantee that because you're going overtime doesn't mean you'll get paid for it. That's just the state of the visual effects industry.
But the Batman is definitely an exception here. Firstly, let's talk about the action sequence. I loved how they used long takes to show the flow of action perfectly. You can easily track every punch, every kick landed by the characters with ease. Now, talking of CGI, the best part here is that they are actually shooting scenes in a digital virtual environment rather than green screens. Because if you know, the cinematographer Greg Fraser has worked with Jon Favreau on The Mandalorian, and I'll put some behind the scene photos of The Mandalorian to show you what I'm saying. So they have surrounded the characters with the monitors like this in the picture present in front of you, and because of this you don't have to create artificial lighting for the characters. The lighting from the screen will naturally fall on the characters, giving the visual effect artist and the cinematographer a better reference. Hence, you will get more realistic images than usual, which is a big plus. I think this film has barely used CGI, but where they did, I think they have used it with this technology, which totally knocked it out of the park. And last but not the least, Michael Giacchino composed a power-packed score which served as a soul for the film. And I think it made its own place in a franchise which already had some of the most compelling superhero themes, such as Danny Elfman's Batman theme, and Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard's theme from The Dark Knight. Although the score was kind of repetitive, but I liked how it was a derivative of Nirvana's Something in the Way. I won't call it plagiarism, I think they expanded on the song rather. You can check it out for yourself, I'll play the audios for you. Now, talking about the negatives, one of my biggest issues with this film was Catwoman. Both the writing of the character and Zoë Kravitz's portrayal. I feel like this film could have worked much better without her. First of all, I was not at all able to buy the romance they tried to set up with Batman. It felt very shoehorned and basically it was kind of cringy as well. I didn't feel like it was very natural and it disrupted the momentum of the film for me. And speaking of Zoë Kravitz's portrayal, she was forcing the sass quite a lot. It didn't come to her naturally like it did to Anne Hathaway in The Dark Knight Rises, and her portrayal felt a little over the top and overacted. I was not able to buy her character at all, and her performance didn't help in any part. Now, I think I've already told you that I loved how they portrayed Batman in the film, but I feel like the Bruce Wayne aspect of the character was not portrayed well. Now, I firmly believe that particular characters like Batman and James Bond, they thrive on reinterpretation. For example, Daniel Craig's darker and more brutal James Bond was required to keep the character fresh, and it did, and it functioned really well. Same is the case with the Batman, but there is a certain aspect of Bruce Wayne personality which is a defining character for the Batman. Basically, Batman is the real person. Batman is the real character here, and Bruce Wayne is the mask. Bruce Wayne is never what that person, Bruce Wayne truly is. Bruce Wayne is his mask and Batman is what he really is from the inside. So basically, Batman hides his mental suffering and trauma behind the playboy persona of Bruce Wayne, which other films nailed. When you look at the Dark Knight trilogy or Affleck's Batman, they nailed that aspect of Bruce Wayne. Now, I didn't particularly want that at the beginning, but during the end, I wanted Bruce Wayne to evolve into that iconic Bruce Wayne we know and love, which didn't happen. It felt kind of emo to me. Bruce Wayne's character was, a very emo version of what we have seen and what we know and love, and I think it was little over the top too. I didn't like the sequence where he is maintaining the diary. It felt kind of pretentious and it felt little over the top for me. And during the end also, he's writing in his diary and stuff like that, and basically he's just writing stuff like that he has beaten this person and stuff like that. He's not able to sleep, he's becoming a nocturnal animal. It felt very emo to me. I don't know, it felt very pretentious. I was not able to buy that, and I think Matt Reeves got little carried away over there which I don't know, I wish he improves on that in the second film, in the sequel. Also, even though the pacing is solid, and a lot of credit for that goes to the editor because he kept the film crisp for the masses, despite the fact that masses are not much into a slow burn character drama. But there are times where the film felt pretentiously draggy. There is a certain scene where he takes out a letter from the cage and it is dramatically slow, and there are some entrants of Batman which are just too dramatically slow, and I feel like I don't know if I'll walk that slow in that situation. I don't know anyone will walk that slow in that situation. So yeah, it was pretentiously draggy at times, and some of the dialogues didn't work for me. Specifically the dialogues from Catwoman, I don't know why her writing was so bad. I think that they didn't pay much attention to flesh out her character. Now there is one more thing I want to talk about, and it is kind of tricky to talk about. It's not necessarily a negative of this film, but it's something of a complaint if I'm being specific, and that is Colin Farrell's portrayal of Penguin. Now, Colin Farrell is an exceptionally great actor, but I am not a fan of prosthetics acting. I know a lot of people loved his performance, but I can't really see a performance there because I can't really see Colin Farrell there. In a prosthetics performance, I feel like your whole face is covered with makeup and prosthetics and you can't really see a performance in there. So, I don't know, I feel like instead of wasting so much money on a high-profile actor and paying so much extra for the prosthetics, they could have hired someone like Brendan Gleeson, who has that kind of a look, and we could have actually seen a performance in there. So that's one of my complaints, and it's more of a personal opinion because I am not a fan. I am not a fan of prosthetics acting. It feels like very on the nose. So overall, I think The Batman is the kind of superhero film we need. I think in this day and age where there is an abundance of superhero films and basically you wake up to a new superhero film every month, we need more superhero films where the filmmaker is given full creative freedom to bring out his version of story, where the story is superhero film second but a compelling drama first. And The Batman is definitely one of those films, and for that reason I'll be going with 3.5 stars of 5. Thank you so much for watching the video, and please subscribe to my channel for more such videos. I'll be back shortly with new reviews. Thank you once again.